Are you becoming aware? Do you really believe that you are becoming more aware? Well, that's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to discuss this idea of what does it mean to be aware. What I've come to understand is to be aware means to become the observer. It means to be the person, or to be the consciousness, the awareness, for no better term, that observes you, that observes your life, that sees your life in its allness. And so when the observer is looking at your life, it's not seeing what's right or what's wrong, it's seeing everything. It also is seeing everything without judgment, because it's the observer. And this is where we get confused. We think that the observer is the judge, and that's not the case. The observer does not judge in any way, shape, form, or fashion. The observer simply observes. And so as you look at yourself and you're becoming more aware, then you're observing that your life is always in perfect balance. You're always equally challenged, equally supported. There's always as much good as you perceive that's bad, or bad that you perceive as good. There's always an equal balance. It's just the perspective in which we're looking at it, and from what perspective we're looking at it with. Every challenge presents us a new opportunity to be different in life. Do you get that? Every challenge. I noticed yesterday, Gene and I went to our financial planner to talk about what changes do we need to make once Gene retires come April. And so the challenge is now to implement these changes in our lives. And they're not bad changes because we planned well for ourselves. But it's always about being able to see both the good and what we perceive as not good. And there's no not good. Not good is simply a judgment that we make because we have a preconceived idea of how we want everything to go. Here's the next thing. That's just about ourselves. Well, what about others we meet? Yeah, we've got preconceived ideas about everyone in our lives, don't we? And if they don't meet those ideas, well, they're bad. Well, that's not the observer. The observer says, Jackie's out there. And she says, since my last meditation, I've been sticking my fingers up. Way to go. Yeah. If you weren't, and most of you weren't in the morning meditation, but in the morning meditation afterwards, I started talking about the idea that we've got to say no to fear. And I was very candid. The way you say no to fear is you give fear the finger. And I'm doing it right now. You give fear the finger. You say, I'm not dancing with you. I don't have to go in that mode because I'm the observer. And the observer doesn't know fear because the observer sees everything in balance. Guess what, gang? It's not easy being the observer. It's really difficult to be the observer. Gene T says, I blushed about sticking my fingers up. Isn't it interesting that we've been conditioned that it's not appropriate? What does giving the finger mean? It just means I say no to that. We don't have to go any further than that. I just say no to that. You have the right to say no to that. Yeah, Lori, the observer sees everything in balance. The infinite sees everything in balance. Your soul, which is an aspect of the infinite, sees everything in balance. It's only the ego that doesn't see it in balance. And here's the key thing. Look at the world today. Is it in balance? And you'll probably say no. The fact is, it is in balance. But we're only being presented a certain perspective. We're only looking at a very small part of what's going on in the world. But if you were able to see a camera, let's pretend there's a half-hour newscast. And in that half hour's newscast, everything that happens in the world is presented. Everything that happens in the world is presented. Do you know what COVID would represent? Let me share with you how COVID would be presented in that half hour. It's done. Did you see how fast that was? Because you only got a half hour to put everything that happens in the world. So here's COVID. But that's not what we believe, because we're being bombarded with it, with news and social media and all of this stuff. But there's so much good going on to balance that. I know that because I'm witnessing it in my life, and as I support others in their lives, I see the good. JJ says, yes, I was told it was wrong to do that, but hey ho, I'm an adult and I have a choice. I rebel against my conditioning. I invite everybody out there to be a rebel against the conditioning that you've been given. Be for being your unique self. Because I'm going to tell you what, when you are your unique self, man, your juices go up. When I talk about being juiced for life, you get excited about doing what you love, what is unique to you that brings you great joy. It's fascinating, but you got to learn to say no to that which is not what you are. Ian says, I turn 26 today. Hey, Ian, thanks for friggin' rubbing it in. Here's the sad commentary about that. I could be Ian's grandfather, for God's sake. Oh! And you know, there's balance in that too. I could be his grandfather, but at the same time, I've got wisdom by being the age that I am that I would never have had when I was 26. I was not looking for information the way Ian is at 26. I was numb to the world. Uva says, is it possible that balance is not a static state, but rather an oscillating movement, and that a static state of balance does not exist? We'll want to go down the rabbit hole here. We only know balance for nanoseconds. Balance is a state in between the thoughts, a state in between the breaths. We can't know balance but for a brief moment. And the reason we can't know it is because we have two things that stop that. Number one, we have a body. And our body only knows what it senses. And our senses have to have opposites. And so we're in one side of the opposite or the other. The other thing is that we have egos. And our egos are always about judging. This or that, this or that. And so because we are spirit souls with a body, with an ego on the planet at this time, it's impossible. It's impossible to know balance for very long. Brief moments of balance. And the best place that I have found the moments of balance are in meditation, because you really have to slow the thoughts. You have to really feel and know the senses, become unattached to the sensations moving through your body. And then you've got to come out of the ego and go and stop going into judgment. Yeah. It's a real interesting question. Lori's telling Ian, at 26, I was divorced and starting my new life. Do you know when the best time to start your new life is? Do you know? Right now. This is the best time that you can start your new life. So here's the question. What are you going to do today that's different? What are you going to do today that's unique? How are you going to rebel against your internal conditioning that you never really consciously chose? Those are powerful questions, my friends. Very powerful questions. Hey, you know what today is? Today is Wednesday. Today is Agape Gathering Day. So if you want to connect on Zoom with me and other like-minded people, we've got 3 gatherings. 11 a.m. Central Time, 1:30 p.m. Central Time, and 7 p.m. Central Time. You say, Lee, why do you have these gatherings at this time? Well, normally the 11 a.m., I have a bunch of people from Lebanon that join, but anyone's welcome. At 1:30, I have a bunch of people from Europe that join, but anyone's welcome to join. And at 7 o'clock, I have people from all over the United States and Australia. And everyone is welcome to join. We have discussions, we check in, we share. It's a safe place. And if you're looking to be with like-minded people, I invite you to give us a shot, because they got to be like-minded. If you like me or you resonate with me, you don't have to like me, but resonate with what I'm saying, the people that'll be on this will have some form of vibration that you'll resonate with. So I invite you, if you're looking for that information, go to agapespiritualcenter.com, click on the events, and everything is there. With that, go be a rebel. Go be you. And know that you're enough. You're worthy. You're whole. You're perfect and complete. And you're loved. And if no one tells you it, I will. I love you just the way you are. Until next time, aloha.